The room was filled with glittering lights, cameras, and the faint hum of whispers from a well-dressed crowd. The annual Voice of Tomorrow talent show had drawn in hundreds of contestants, each chasing fame, recognition, and fortune. But then, a thin, barefoot girl walked onto the stage. Her dress was torn, her hair unkempt, her eyes hollow with hunger and pain. The audience chuckled, expecting a spectacle, not a story. She stepped up to the microphone and said, her voice trembling yet clear, "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" For a second, silence drowned the hall. The judges, frozen, exchanged glances. Nobody laughed now. The spotlight that once glorified dreams suddenly revealed something raw and uncomfortable. What followed that night would shake millions, ignite a movement, and change the life of a starving girl forever. Asha was born in the back alleys of Atlanta, under the fractured light of street lamps and the echo of police sirens. Her mother, once a gospel singer, had lost her voice to years of smoke and sorrow. Her father, a mechanic, disappeared when Asha was 5, leaving behind nothing but a rusted harmonica. Hunger was not a visitor, it was a resident, a constant reminder that life could take more than it ever gave. Every morning, Asha would walk through the marketplace singing softly under her breath as she begged for coins. Sometimes an old woman would toss her an apple. Other times, security guards would chase her away. But even in the noise of traffic and cruelty, she had one refuge. Her voice, fragile yet filled with emotion, was her only possession, her only weapon against invisibility. At night, she would sit near the subway station singing lullabies. Her mother used to hum. The echoes would bounce off the cold tiles, carrying her pain into the darkness. Some stopped to listen, most didn't. But one day, a street performer named Tony noticed her. He was a failed musician, too old for dreams but too kind to ignore one. He started teaching her rhythm, breath, and tonan, the same street corner that had become her stage. They would rehearse in alleys, using plastic bottles as drums and broken guitar strings tied to broomsticks. To Asha, it wasn't just practice, it was escape. She believed that one day, someone would hear her voice and see her, truly see her. Tony believed it too. But survival was cruel. When Tony fell ill, Asha spent her days running errands and singing for spare change. She learned that compassion was a luxury and that music didn't fill stomachs. Yet, every note she sang carried a quiet rebellion against hunger, against silence, against being forgotten. When the Voice of Tomorrow posters appeared on the street walls, promising a chance for every dreamer, she knew it wasn't meant for her. But Tony insisted she go. "You don't need a ticket," he said, coughing weakly. "You need a song." She hesitated, barefoot and starving, as she entered the glittering world of cameras and luxury she had never known. People stared, laughed, whispered, but she didn't care. For once, she wanted to be more than a shadow. She just wanted to sing and eat. As Asha walked onto the stage, the lights blinded her. The judges smirked at her ragged appearance. One of them leaned into his mic saying, "Sweetheart, this isn't a charity show." The audience laughed. Her small frame shook, but she didn't move. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" The laughter stopped. Silence spread like wildfire. The host froze, unsure what to do. One judge nodded hesitantly. "Sing, child," he said softly. Then it began. Her voice rose, not loud, not polished, but pure. It was a song she wrote herself. A song about hunger, loss, and love. The lyrics told of sleeping under bridges, dreaming of rain instead of hunger, and believing that the world could still hold kindness. Her tone trembled with truth, every note soaked in the raw emotion of survival. It wasn't music. It was a cry for humanity. Halfway through, people began crying. The camera zoomed in on her face, eyes closed. Tears streaming down her cheeks as she sang about her mother, her dreams, her pain. The audience, once amused, now stood in stunned silence. Even the judges lowered their eyes. When the last note faded, no one clapped immediately. Then, slowly, the hall erupted not in applause, but in something deeper, respect. People stood, some rushed forward, offering money, food, clothes. One of the judges, a famous producer, walked up and hugged her. "You've reminded us what music means," he whispered. The next morning, her performance was everywhere. News channels called her the girl who sang for food. Social media flooded with her song, spreading across borders. Donations poured in. Restaurants offered meals. Record labels wanted to sign her. But fame, like fire, burns differently for those who've known cold all their life. Asha didn't understand contracts or deals. All she knew was that, for the first time, people listened. Tony watched from his hospital bed, tears filling his eyes as he saw his student's voice reach millions. "She did it," he whispered, smiling faintly before his heart stopped beating that night. Asha didn't know until days later. When she found out, she sang again, not for fame, not for food, but for him, for every soul who believed that music could heal. Fame came fast, like a flood. Within weeks, Asha was on every talk show, every magazine cover. People wanted to hear her story, the starving girl who sang her way into hearts. But behind every smile, she carried the weight of her past. The sudden attention overwhelmed her. Expensive dresses replaced her rags, but hunger still lived in her memories. Her first song, "One Plate of Hope," became a global anthem. It raised millions for homeless children and inspired charity concerts worldwide. But for Asha, success wasn't about the spotlight. She used her earnings to build shelters, music schools for poor kids, and food drives across the country. She knew that talent alone wasn't enough, it needed kindness to give it meaning. As she traveled from city to city, she met children who reminded her of herself. Barefoot, voiceless, invisible. She sang with them, ate with them, laughed with them. Every concert ended the same way. Usha placing a plate of food in front of a child, saying, "This is what music gave me." But even as her fame grew, she never forgot the moment that started it, all the trembling words that had changed her life. Sometimes she would return to the same street where she once sang for coins, quietly humming her old songs. She'd sit where Tony used to teach her and whisper, "I made it." Years later, she founded the Sing for a Plate Foundation, giving street kids a stage and a meal. Her movement turned into a global initiative, reminding people that art was not just for entertainment, it was for survival, for empathy, for connection. And whenever someone asked her what inspired her to sing that night, she would smile and say, "Hunger taught me rhythm, pain gave me melody, and hope gave me my voice."